My name cannot be expressed with human letters, or said with human mouths. But they've given me a name of their own, a name I've grown to cherish. Super Thing. It sounds dumb, I know. Cheesy derivative. But it's also a great honor. Because, you see, they're comparing me to one of the greatest heroes their species had ever dreamed up. Superman. If I were a human, I think the name itself would make me smile. There's just something about Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman that just… Well, you're a human. You know what I mean, right? There's a reason your young tie their bedding around their shoulders and pretend to fly. And why you put his symbol on anything you can sell. I don't blame you for being so entranced by the idea of him. I am too, more than I can put into words. The idea that a godlike being, benevolent and kind, would descend from the skies to act as your world's mightiest protector is one I think my own people would have found comfort in as well. We needed comfort. I identify with Clark more than most, maybe. We are both very nearly the last of us. My own home was attacked by an ancient monster that had terrorized our galaxy for longer than the recorded history of most species living in it. I don't know much about what happened. Confusion and panic take up most of my memories, and everything happened so fast. I was so young then, too. Too young to keep track of everything. Too young to understand. I know I am from what you here call the Andromeda Galaxy. I know that, at the time, leaving the galaxy was considered just beyond the bleeding edge of science by the general population. I know that my parents were not the general population. So here I am, the only life form that I or anyone on Earth knows of to escape my galaxy. The only life form in the universe to visit Earth. Probably the last of my kind. I said very nearly, but the truth is that I'm pretty sure there's no Supergirl or Power Girl coming to join me. Not even a Zode. Sorry, I'm getting off track. Anyway, I guess given all of that, it really isn't surprising that I'm such a Superman superfan. That, and the irony of having crash-landed in Kansas. It isn't lost on me, you know. I think that first encounter might have gone smoother if my species looked more like humans and less like Rathtars. See, in the late 30s when Superman was first published, an alien pod could crash land in a field in Kansas, and no one would really be the wiser except the nice Kansas farmer couple who happened to drive by. And even if the military had found the pod, their response to finding what looked like a perfectly normal baby inside would have probably been rather mild. Their response to finding what some people have described as a nutsack the size of a truck tire that sprouted tentacles and rolled away was less so. I remember a flash of light as the pods opened and the beautiful yellow sunlight of Earth streamed into my photoreceptors. A moment of blissful calm before the storm of shouting, angry creatures pointing what I knew even then were weapons at me. I couldn't have known at the time that the shouts were orders to identify myself, or that the weapons were there to protect them from me. I was too young to understand how terrified many of them must have been. But I knew how terrified I was. How lost I felt, and how homesick. I missed my parents, my friends, my whole planet. And now I was being shouted at by aliens pointing weapons at me. As embarrassing as it is, I lost control and let out a psychic blast. Well, it's embarrassing for me. I don't care how cool you think it is. Imagine if I thought it was cool that you wet yourself. Doesn't make it much better. Just makes you seem weird. Right, anyway. What I didn't know about humans at the time is that they're particularly receptive to emotional energy. You see, in psionic species, mental and emotional energy are projected at the same time. When I send out a powerful psychic blast, or create a telepathic link with another being, I'm also coding my emotional state into that. Most species don't have the capacity to decode this information, the emotional energy passing through their brains like junk code. Useless information that does nothing to them while the mental energy does all of the heavy lifting. Humans are, quite oddly, the mental energy of the blast, the part that was meant to do the most damage and protect me, washed over them like water. But the emotional energy, merely an accident of my psionic biology, that hit them. And it told them how I was feeling. That I was scared and tired and lonely, and just wanted to go home. And they responded as any compassionate sentient would. First one by one, and then all at once, the guns were lowered and the shouting voices quieted to soothing murmurs. The man closest to me approached slowly, gently reaching out a hand towards me and speaking in soft tones I didn't understand. But I could feel the compassion leaking out of him, like the warm glow of heat around a fire, and I latched on. 7 juvenile tentacles and 1 thicker adult tentacle wrapped around the man and brought me to his chest. I was expecting to have to just take my own comfort, seek closeness with this alien as he merely transported me. I didn't expect them to have as high a social need as I did. But then I felt 2 strong arms wrap around my middle and squeeze. "It'll be okay, little guy." I heard over the telepathic link I'd reflexively created with the human holding me. Jesus, this thing's ugly, but I feel so bad for it. Clearly, these humans had no idea how to shield their thoughts. But there was too much going on for me to focus on an insult with no heat behind it. And besides, the thought allowed me to access where he stored his language memories and learn English by assimilating them into my own consciousness. Water was the first word I said, I'm told. I had been in my pod for years, long enough to grow from a baby to a toddler. It was no wonder I was thirsty. "Where's your mouth, buddy?" the man holding me asked, taking a canteen from his leg bag. Of course, I don't really have a mouth. So I reached my tentacles out and stuck one into the canteen to drink. You know, my parents must have been so scared. I think if I had a child and I was sending them to some unknown planet, I'd be terrified of how the native sentients would treat them. Sentients, not just humans, but all people. Well, they can be cruel. But I don't think that my parents could have picked a better planet or a better species to entrust me to. And that first encounter I had with you shows that. I am, by human standards, terrifying and ugly. But my pain mattered more than my appearance because humans have good hearts. And that's why, even now that I've made contact with beings from beyond the stars, I will always consider Earth my home and humans my people.